Look closely at a piece of bread, garden soil, or pond water. Past the visible surface, a hyperactive metropolis is teeming with alien-looking life. When people hear the word microbes, they think of fevers, spoiled food, and infections. We treat them as germs to be scrubbed away. But microorganisms are simply single-celled or acellular entities. They live in nearly every environment on Earth, performing their daily routines entirely hidden from us, too small to see with the naked eye. We didn't know this layer of reality existed until the 1600s, when early scientists began using carefully curved pieces of glass to magnify tiny objects, pulling these hidden ecosystems into focus. These organisms aren't simply living alongside us. As we'll see, the constant activity of this hidden layer of life is what makes our own survival possible. To understand how they support us, we must meet the workforce. First, bacteria. These ubiquitous laborers are classified by shape: spherical, rod-shaped, spiral, comma-shaped. Inside, a bacterium's genetic material sits in an uncontained nucleoid, lacking a membrane-bound nucleus. Next are the fungi. This group ranges from single-celled yeasts, which reproduce by budding off tiny clones, to multicellular molds that grow by pushing out expanding thread-like networks called hyphae. Then we have the algae. These are the aquatic heavy lifters. They act like the grass of our oceans and lakes, using chlorophyll to capture sunlight and produce food. Finally, the protozoa. These animal-like hunters use specialized hairs or fluid extensions of their bodies to actively swim and consume their prey. These four biological groups represent the primary categories of microbial life. Each has evolved specialized structures that allow them to occupy nearly every environment on the planet. There is, however, a fifth category: viruses. These operate under different rules because they are not biologically alive. A virus is entirely acellular, acting like rogue software. It finds a living host cell, injecting its code inside. That code hijacks the cell's factories to manufacture new particles, filling the host until it bursts to repeat the cycle. Because they can only function inside a host, viruses set apart from the other four groups in how they interact with life on Earth. In a backyard garden, we see this microbial labor in its most common role: recycling. Bacteria and fungi break down dead organic matter, returning nutrients like nitrogen and carbon back to the soil. This labor is visible in agriculture. Pull up a leguminous plant like a pea, and you will find small swollen bumps on their roots. Inside those nodules live rhizobium bacteria. These bacteria pull nitrogen gas from the air and convert it into chemical compounds, manufacturing a nitrile fertilizer from the inside out. We've even learned to deploy microbes to clean up chemical disasters caused by humans. In a process called bioremediation, specialized bacteria are introduced to polluted environments. When crude oil spills coat waterways and shorelines, these bacteria are released to consume the hydrocarbons, breaking them down into harmless byproducts. Microbes engineer the physical environment, maintaining the chemical balances required for crops to grow and for damaged ecosystems to recover. This labor extends right into our kitchens. The texture of our daily food relies heavily on microbes, specifically the single-celled fungi we call yeast. When added to dough, yeast consumes sugars and respires. This fermentation process releases carbon dioxide gas, creating bubbles that make the dough rise. Bacteria do similar work in dairy. Strains like lactobacillus enter the milk, converting sugars into lactic acid. This thickens the liquid, creating curd, yogurt, and cheese. Inside our own bodies, probiotics maintain gut health and aid digestion. And when we do get sick, we often turn to fungi like penicillium, which provided our first antibiotics. Human civilization has harnessed these natural chemical processes to preserve our harvests and cure our infections. Of course, a small fraction of these microbes are dangerous pathogens, like the bacteria that cause pneumonia or the dengue virus. They invade our bodies and cause illness. This dangerous minority is exactly why human hygiene and modern sanitation remain critical to our survival. But those harmful pathogens represent only a tiny percentage of the microscopic world. We cannot let the fear of a few obscure the work done by the majority. Algae generate more than half of the oxygen we breathe. Bacteria enrich the soil that grows our crops. Fungi lift the bread on our tables. The next time you look at a garden or a pond, remember the metropolis operating out of sight. From the oxygen in the air to the fertility of the soil, these microscopic organisms are the silent partners of human civilization.